Hello, everybody, and welcome. I am Jesse. My pronouns are he, him, and I will be your GM for tonight's session of Electric Bastionland, in which we are running Patrick Stewart and Scrap Princess's excuse me, adventure module, Deep Carbon Observatory. Let's have our friendly adventurers introduce themselves and their characters. We'll just go left to right across the character keeper. So, Nathan, would you like to start us off? Just introduce yourself and your character.
Sure, my name is Nathan. I'm playing the character Smith, both of which using he, him pronouns. His failed career is a deconstructor, sort of like a demolitions person. And he comes with a handful of demolition-oriented tools and a filthy dog.
Named?
You have to scroll down for that. Are we not doing it from there?
Oh, we can, sure.
Oh, sure. I thought but the dog's name is Devil.
Yeah. Awesome. Robbie, you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Robbie. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm playing Gian, who uses she, her pronouns. And Gian is a expelled lamplighter who seems to be very interested in making plans and plots, although they don't ever necessarily turn out quite the way she is thinking they will. She comes supplied with a 10-foot pole with a wick on the end, which is part of her lamp lighting past. Although in Bastionland, there is the move to electricity, and so she has kind of found herself somewhat out of service in Bastionland, so is kind of moving to parts outside of Bastionland, seeking perhaps for some alternative means of coming into wealth.
Fantastic. And our associated burglar, Todd, is not with us tonight. So, Puckett, why don't you finish us off?
Hi there, I'm Puckett. I use he, him pronouns. Tonight I'll be playing Kix, who uses she, her pronouns. She is a critter catcher, focusing primarily on catching snakes, which is why she has a couple of snakes in a sack with her. They're venomous, which is why she has anti-venom. As she keeps saying, why would I have it? We have anti-venom. The entire point of anti-venom is using it at some point. So we're not really afraid of snakes at the moment.
Wonderful. And we are playing with a number of safety tools. In particular, we're going to talk about our lines and veils for this evening. We have one hard line, which is sexual assault. So that will just not appear in our story tonight. In addition, we have several veils, things which can be part of the story but will not be shown on screen. And if they start to happen, we will fade to black. And those are harm to animals, sexual content, and torture. And then there are a few things which we may be willing to include in the story should it happen, but we should check in first. And those are suicide and homophobia. So those are our lines and veils for tonight's game. Smith, I meant to say something beforehand. So you have not been with us for the past couple sessions. This is not to put you on the spot, but just to sort of when Kix wasn't around, it turned out that she was off hunting snakes and she came back with a bag of snakes. So if you have some kind of appropriate place within the area you might have wandered off to and come back with something, feel free. And you don't have to come up with it right now. If in the moment at some time it feels relevant and you have an idea, feel free to jump in with that. Should you want to. I felt like that was it made good sense, and it created some fun moments in play earlier. So why not do it again if it works and if you come up with anything? But no pressure for you two if you don't also.
What became of the rest of the cannibals back in town? I know one of them, it sounded like, had died.
so you left they were all abandoned, asleep, face down in the water. You did. I don't think anyone like snuck around to make sure they died, but
Sure.
But
Okay.
they had this slumber gas that was pretty potent.
Got it. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So let's talk about now where you find yourselves. So you have left where you had camped overnight at the base of the hill where the windmill was, and you had sent out you had bid Ula and the children that she had with her in the windmill farewell as they headed off in the second canoe to hopefully find some safety at Caramore. And you head up the river, off towards the dam, and it takes a little bit. It's probably 3-4 hours, but it's uneventful. And so you get to the dam if you rose at sunrise, 10 o'clock in the morning, let's say, and I mean the dam is kind of vast, right? It spans the valley. Now, the valley is now at its sort of narrowest point, but it's still a good, couple miles, maybe a little bit less than that long, but it's all flat and open. So you can basically see along its length. It hits up the steep, almost sheer walls of the valley on either side. And in the middle, of course, it is cracked right down its center, creating what is a chasm of raw stone. And it's big, so you can't perfectly see up to the top. But it seems to you that there's maybe a kind of platform or space midway up it to the right. You're not sure. You can't get a really good look at it, but it seems like there's not it's not just an empty chasm all the way to the top. And it's sort of and again, this is sort of what you can see from the bottom as you're sort of sitting on the bank of the river, or in the river. There's a very, very sort of at the top, there's a very, very sheer drop off. And then it sort of becomes a little bit less, it becomes much more kind of manageable as a slope, right? So you imagine you could probably get yourself inside that big sort of chasm-y crack and even climb up a little ways. But then you would hit a point without too much trouble, with your climbing gear or whatever. But once you get to a certain point, it's going to be very, very difficult between the water coming down and the steepness of the sort of of the cliff. It's really a cliff, right? Right, and I think, and then along the bottom of the dam, right, there's a series of what look to you like open sluice gates, but there's not a sluice gate you would have lots of water rushing through it, right? But it's the ones that are closest to you. There's 6 along the bottom. They just sort of in as much as any is in the water, it's just kind of a dull trickle, right? Because the pressure is obviously, with the breaking of the dam, it's not forcing the water through those sluice gates. And you see, hold on one second, all the way off, hold on. Where is this here? I'm missing something. Doesn't matter. Anyways, you can see so off to the left, almost all the farthest, the with the farthest away sluice gate, you see a large. It's far away. It looks small, but you can know based on the distance it's actually large. A sort of thick, heavy creature, bipedal creature, kneeling in front of a sluice gate, almost as in prayer. And I'm going to give me 1 second. There we go. Make this a little bit bigger. And then I will share my screen with you to show you what this creature looks like. And it looks like this. And so, sort of off, if you are kind of over here or maybe off on the shore, right, it is all the way over here-ish. And it has, you can't really see its face from here, right? But you can sort of get its silhouette. And
Gotcha.
That is the situation you find yourself in.
In the chasm itself, is it like choked with debris, or is it more like water?
So it's both. So it's not choked with debris, but like the water is running down, and you can sort of see there's a lot of loose kind of debris and crumbled rock, right? And again, like sort of the way it's been 3 days, right? The flood has rushed through already. So like most of what's unsettled has stuff is settled in, right?
Yeah, I guess the question is more like, is the water at this point running underneath the debris? Like, has it subsided like that, or is it still running like over top of whatever debris might
I
be
think
below?
there's both, right? Like I think you can see clearly enough that like yes, there are like some big like boulders of broken rock that have fallen and have settled and are like on top of the water, but there's also like crumbled smaller bits of stone and gravel or whatever that have kind of like settled in. Yeah.
Well, and it looks like we can make our way up the center part, but at some point would it become impassable, or at least very difficult to just kind of go right up the middle?
Yeah, so it's like basically, I guess the way to sort of think about it is, so down the center of the crevice is rushing water still, like it's a waterfall. So you can't really like climb up the center of that, but enough of it has like fallen away that along the sides of the rushing water, right? You'd probably want to choose a side to climb up, right? But like along the sides of the rushing water, right, there's a like climbable surface, to a point, right, after which it becomes like basically the deal is like the crevice kind of narrows till it's almost just the falling water, and it's very, very sheer at the top, right? So you have like it would. I'm not going to say it's impossible. There are some dry spots along the edge, and there's, I maybe you could figure out a way to do it in the water, although, it wouldn't be easy. But like as you get farther and farther up, but as I said, that sort of like first level kind of almost like platform section, right? That place on towards the right where it seems a little flatter, right? Like that seems to be on the more climbable side.
And out of these sluice gates, is there a lot of water pouring out of those?
No,
Is it
there's
just
almost
a trickle, right?
yeah.
Just a trickle.
It's just a trickle. They're well. They're I guess they say the sluice gates are cold, like they're closed. So there isn't anything
Okay.
trickling out of them.
Okay.
I did say, or I misspoke. I mean, you can go and take a look. You can take definitely like if you want to take a closer look at one of the sluice gates, you could definitely like I've described this to you at kind of a distance, so I could give you a big picture. But if you want to get close enough to like really examine one of the sluice gates or whatever, you can do that.
I think that makes sense, and maybe pull up on the right side, just in case we decide we don't want to mess with whatever that big thing is over on the left.
Is that what you folks want to do? Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, although he does, that other figure you said were distant, but he looks really large, right? So
yeah, I mean, it's one of these golems, right? Like
yeah,
that's I think you're able to put that together,
right?
It's in the same position in front of its sluice gate, in front of the sluice gate that you saw the other golem.
Yeah, but giving him, it makes sense to Gian to go on the right, because I don't know that the golem is intentionally aggressive, but they are large, and I wouldn't want to get stepped on by one of them. So, keeping a little distance sounds good.
Sure. Yeah. So if you sort of approach it on the right side of the river, toward the south, right on the map I showed you, but the south, whatever it is, the southeast side of the river, you come to you sort of approach the sluice gate, and you can see there's like a channel right coming out of it that like runs down to the to the river, right? And there's a heavy door barring the sluice gate, but you can see like very, very clearly in the center of that door is a space, an indentation that looks like it would pretty clearly hold a dodecahedron, like a 12-sided polyhedron, right? Would fit. That's probably about the size, this big maybe, would fit very nicely right into that hole.
Mm-hmm.
Which you may recall was the face of the golem you saw in the village before.
Okay, so that's the one that that did get a clear look. That was the one that was trying to stuff his face in a hole. Is that right?
Yep, exactly right.
Okay.
It's faced with a 12-sided stone.
Mm-hmm. What scale hole was it trying to stick its head in?
So it was about it was not huge. It had built this kind of structure out of the debris from the village, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that had a hole in the center of it that some water was rushing through it. And it wasn't actually trying to stick its head in the hole. It had its mouth has kind of like a turbine whirring in it, right?
Okay.
And it was sort of trying to fix its mouth onto that and let the water, but it just wasn't doing anything. I think the turbine actually stopped right as you were watching. Am I remembering that right? Kicks, Gian, I think that's right.
Yeah, or at least, I mean, at the very least, yeah, it was kind of clear that it was not getting the. I think clearly it was trying to set up a kind of dam structure that was not sufficient for what it was looking to do with it.
Yeah, it didn't seem to be generating the kind of power that it needed from that little hole and from the existing water flow. So,
but and so whether or not, I'm not sure whether in the narration Smith was along for the ride and saw that or didn't see it, but does it seem like whatever structure it was trying to improvise is sort of reminiscent of what we're seeing now?
Are you asking me or the other players?
again, like I said, I don't know if Smith was along for that. I mean, from a narrative standpoint, you're
yeah.
talking about
You can decide
being
whether Smith was
separated.
there or not, but I think for the other players who were there, I think Gian has it right. She it seems like kind of something like this, but obviously not able to do anything close enough with the materials it had. Right. In the sense that it was trying to get water to rush through its face, right? That's sort of what you can.
Well, yeah, and it seems like that's not something we'd be able to even if we bring the matching golem, it seems right to this gate, the water isn't there. There isn't the turbines aren't going to spin because the water's all over the valley, right?
When a dam is broken, water does not move
Yep.
through its sluice gates at a particularly high rate.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, I think Gian looks at it at the sluice gate and says, "Well, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to get on the other side of the dam, and I mean, we could maybe try to see if we could there's a way through this gate, or we could do the climbing. Although the climbing looks like it would be a little challenging.
Well, and Smith is thinking about if say we do climb, and on the other side we find riches. Oh, great! Now how do we get them back, right? The climb is going to be a pain every time we have to go back and forth or what have you. So yeah, I think he's definitely, Smith is definitely in favor of if this provides an easier route, or even just a long but easy route, right, or whatever, that'd be the way to go if it's possible.
So, I mean, I guess what we could do is I go up to one of these gates and see what if there's a way to kind of get inside.
Well, so you did, right? So you're outside this first sluice gate, right? The one nearest to the river to the right, and it has this, right, again, this sort of, you see like a 12-sided polyhedron would fit in there very nicely. But it's the in sort of in the center of the door, right, of the gate. But there's this, at the moment, there's this just heavy stone gate barring the entrance to sort of the sluice.
Right. Well, it seems like maybe there's some sort of connection with the golems, maybe worth warily approaching the thing that's kneeling in front of the other gate and see what's happening over there. I don't know if we got a clearer view. Then it's kneeling in front of the.
No, door. It's not even necessarily right in front of the door. But yeah, you can do that for sure. Yeah. So you cross the river. It takes a little time because you have to sort of cross the river and go around. But you have the tools, and it probably takes you 45 minutes or something. It's the ground is pretty open, and so you get over there to sort of the far corner. And yeah, this golem is kneeling, and it looks super weak. I mean, not that you can tell that it's weak, but no energy. It is almost stock still in front of this gate. And I think part of what it's doing is it's kind of banging its face into the gate, almost as if it's trying to get that and from up here you can see it's a six-sided. Its head is a six-sided, like a cube, right? And it's trying to slam its head into this cube-shaped aperture on the sluice gate door. and it keeps on missing.
Hmm.
Right, like that's kind of where it's at, right? Where like it can't even get its face straight into the hole that seems to be built for its face.
Hmm.
About how tall is this thing? Like, do we have any idea what kind of mass it might have?
I mean, it's enormous. Right, I want to say that it's like I don't know, 10 feet tall.
Okay.
Is it even remotely within the realm of our physical possibilities or our physical capabilities that we could somehow put that die or put its face into that area, into that where it needs to go?
I mean, I'm not going to say no. I kind of want to know how you want to try to do that, right? What's the technique here?
From the drawing of it, it looks like it's irregular enough that maybe somebody could sort of like climb its back. Maybe we could attach like guy wires to it, like, sort of fashion like a collar more or less, and just try to like, have some people pulling on one side, some people pulling on the other side to kind of try to get it to line up. Because we got the climbing gear.
You can give it a shot.
Like just try to attach with the climbing gear, the rope, just kind of do that around the neck or something.
Yeah, I mean, you think like, you tie some kind of knot, a noose, whatever, and then like have ropes off to each their side if the idea is to try to guide it in. If you can kind of like get it up around, like almost like a yoke on an ox or something, but just very crude, just enough to try to like tug a little and steer it in as it's repeatedly banging its head against the thing.
Yeah, and these golems, they themselves are made out of like a stone.
Yes, from here you can see it's a stone that's basically the same stone as the dam. Right, it's a dark, almost like black gray kind of stone, right? And where it's wet, it's like slick and black, and then drier parts of which there aren't so many right now because everything's wet. But like maybe at the top of its head, you can see a spot that is not wet. That's kind of a dark gray.
Mm-hmm. I think Gian is willing to give it a shot. I mean, I looking at this thing, it doesn't look especially. I mean, it looks large, but it doesn't look like it's kind of inclined to attack something.
Mm-hmm.
So are you gonna try and like kind of like at least like lasso its head or something to sort of, or just climb right on its back without a rope? I'm just trying to sort of get the sort of picture here.
I feel like working with ropes is probably a safer idea than just trying to rodeo this thing into place.
So just I'm hearing like a kind of loose plan, which is cool. What I would like, the next thing I would like to sort of just to get a sense of what's happening is like a specific action somebody takes, right? So like you want to get this thing sort of tied up in guy wires so you can sort of like pull its head into the hole is what I'm hearing. So what's the action somebody is taking to make that happen?
Well, I think Gian says I'm at least willing to make the attempt up the back, to see if I could get up there. That seems, I mean, if I could get up there with a rope, I mean, that seems the easiest way. I could just, if it was not moving around very much, I could just tie it around the neck then.
Excuse me.
And then before we get pulling, I mean, I could drop off the back so that when we get pulling, if something, happened, I wouldn't be up there to fall off or anything.
Right. You hear it give a kind of low moan as you're talking about this. like a, it's like it's loud and sad.
Mhm.
And also kind of like dry and raspy. Like there's a, and I think what you as it's making that noise, you hear almost like, I think you're just close enough for you to hear like a kind of like click from its mouth area, from its head area, like as if there's like fan blades are trying to turn but are just sort of like hitting, or aren't quite getting going.
Mm.
And do you want me to make an attempt up the back?
Yeah, if you make it, if you want to try and climb up its back, just say so, and I will tell you what happens.
Sure, I think it's worth a shot.
All right, yeah. So I think you sort of approach it from behind, and its moaning is sort of like progressing. But I don't think it seems like it notices you. It seems like it's just right. But the second you sort of like put your hand, I guess probably you can reach to like in the middle of its back to try and like get a grip to pull yourself up, right? All of a sudden that moan like gets a kind of higher pitch. It almost becomes like a grinding sound. And it turns slowly, right? It's not very, with no kind of coordination at all, right? Like it can't get its head in the hole. It can't really, but it is big, and it turns, and it's like, and it kind of like clumsily swings one of its arms to where it thinks you should be based on the contact on its back. But I imagine, given that you're sort of like at its back, right, you stay behind it as it does its slow turn, and so it doesn't hit you, but like it's clearly like, and there's a lot of power in that arm, and I think it actually like throws it almost like 180, it turns itself almost like 180 degrees, and the back of its fist comes around and slams into the wall of the dam, right, causing like a little bit, causing like a not a crack, because this thing is a huge, right, but like so like a little dent as some concrete sort of like crumbles out from the divot its fist has created in the wall, and it's now sort of like turning its head. I think it sees. It doesn't see you again because you're still behind it, but like it sees Kix and Smith and starts lumbering slowly and almost like drunkenly, towards you.
Ian, hurry up with the ropes, please.
Well, I don't know that it's going to. I mean, I could make an attempt to throw it up there, but it's not going to let me.
Well, yeah.
What I'll say is also, just to present the game world honestly here. So, like, when it's leaning its head towards trying to get its head into the thing, using ropes to gently guide it to the right spot is very doable. It's an entirely different thing to guide a gigantic lumbering golem that, outweighs the three of you by, geometric factors, right, into that tiny spot.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest the same thing, that if it's going to work at all, it's going to need to be like calm and doing what it was doing before. If it's doing this, there's no way. Unless it was like docile like a cow, which it doesn't seem like it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you can see it's like lumbering towards you. It's not like similar to the crabs that you chased before. Though there's only one of these things. Like it's, you can escape it, right? So long as you don't get within its reach. But inside its reach, it's very scary, right? That's what I'll say.
Is it possible to basically position someone in front of the area where we want it to kind of like throw its head?
Well, what we could do is if climbing is going to irritate it, we could try, like I think someone else had mentioned basically the lasso method of like throwing something on it, and maybe that'll be less, get less of its attention, but I don't know.
Also, I think the thing is, now you have its attention, right? And it's I think it's like coming. It's if you haven't moved, Smith, it is like coming
sure.
for you.
I'm certainly not standing still.
Yeah. So if you folks want to like dance around outside its reach, you can, and you sort of see that it's like getting increasingly agitated as you do so, and taking more and more wild swings with its arms.
It feels like it might be a good idea just to like kind of clear the area, let it chill out, and then come back when you see it's settled.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, you can absolutely do that. So as you sort of, how long do you want to wait for? I guess you're going to wait until you see it settles. So
yeah, within reason. If it seems like it's going to take more than an hour, we might try something else. I don't know.
Yeah, and you also have to get pretty far. Like I think it's like it chases you as far as the riverbank. I think like as you get in your boat and like head out to sort of the middle of the river, right? It sort of like stands there kind of blankly for 3 or 4 minutes, then turns around and starts lumbering back to it starts to lumber back to where it was, I think, and then it kind of stops and looks and makes its way towards a nearer sluice gate, and takes up its position, the same position in front of not the original sluice gate, but one that's closer by.
Mm-hmm.
Does this sluice gate have what looks to be an indentation in the shape of this golem's head? Is it at least lined up at the right sluice gate?
You can't. Well, the other one was the one that was in the shape of its head. Right. This one, it could also be. You don't know. You're too far away to get a good look.
Mm-hmm.
But the other one that you got a good look at was a different shape.
And we looked at that previous sluice gate. I mean, like the one on the other side of the river that we looked like, was it exactly the same shape?
So the gate itself was, but the indentation was for the dodecahedron, right? And the one before was for a cube.
Yeah.
So it's not so far away from you at this point, right? It's at the nearest sluice gate to the river on the north side of the bank, and it's doing that same thing, sort of like pushing its head in towards the center of the gate, but nothing is happening.
My suspicion is that it's the wrong sluice gate for it.
Yeah. I would assume that like if the two that we've looked at so far are different from each other, it would seem like maybe each one is different or unique.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think while you're sort of like standing in the river, you see if you sort of like look up at the top of the dam at any given point, you see on the top of the dam a figure that kind of looks it's like tiny, but it's in silhouette. You see 3 figures, right, in silhouette, along, and one of them is holding something that appears to be glowing at the tip, and you see the sun glinting off another one's chest. Um, uh,
And sorry,
Sounds
we
like
saw,
weapons and
yeah.
armor.
We saw those figures where?
on all the way at the top of the dam,
Mm.
sort of standing, looking down.
Mhm.
Do any of us have like binoculars or anything like them?
No, unless like a broken lens I can do it, which I doubt, given that it's broken. I don't certainly have anything like that.
Um,
Maybe
Smith.
bolts?
I was gonna say, Smith.
Mhm.
If you want to talk about how you got like a telescope while you were off away, I will let you have it. All right,
Okay.
something for the optical. I mean, something for the optical god. Maybe you ran back to Caramore. I have ideas, but they should be
Sure.
right, you know.
Well, I was thinking that if I wandered off at some point, it might be that maybe I woke up on one of these days and found that my dog Devil had run off in some sort of fashion where I had an idea of which way they headed. Um, and that maybe in sort of classic dog fashion, I'd been led on a bit of a goose chase that ultimately brought me back to say, well, let's see here, let me look at the map to see what like maybe it could have been on the morning or in the same overnight when we had slept on that one area sort of near the tombs, because if you go further down a couple squares the other direction, that church is still in that same landmass, so maybe I got brought over that direction. And while there, kind of with hopefully fewer of the, I forget what we called them, but those like lung fish, those like fish things um around, I got a chance to like maybe look around in some of the debris that might have fallen out of the church when it got tipped on its side, uh and came up lucky.
Sure, I think that works perfectly. So that's what you were doing, and that's how you came back with a thing.
Okay.
So tell me what you do with it. You pull out your first of all, like what telescope, binoculars? What are we talking about here?
I feel like telescope does make more sense for a church to have than binoculars. Some sort of like two lens contraption. Maybe not like a, yeah, I don't know. Depending on what's necessary for it to work. Maybe not something that's totally enclosed. Maybe something that's a little bit more odd and adjustable in various fashions, but that serves the same function of at least focusing light. And that if you're willing to sort of like, maybe this was meant to focus light to a point and like start fires or do who knows what. But if you play with it a little bit, you can get it so that it'll just like magnify an image.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. So where are you pointing this at?
I think that seeing the glint that the folks are giving up top, Smith is gonna take pains to sort of like find some like shadowed place so as to not like give off the same glint in case they haven't spotted us.
Sure.
And from that shadow overhang, whatever, try to get a closer look at those figures up top.
Yeah. So what you see. So first of all, as you sort of like swing it up, right along the sort of right side, it becomes very clear right away that that thing that looked like a platform was a room inside of the dam, right? That the sort of like as it collapsed, left open and exposed, right to the air. And you could definitely climb up there without any real difficulty. Right, that's the first thing you see as you're sort of getting up. Then as you swing it all the way up to the top, you see standing like on the roof of the, like what would be the roof of that room on the top of the dam are three people you kind of recognize and kind of don't. They're the Eagles, those mercenaries that you saw at the beginning, who are also very proud of themselves, right? I'm pulling up their names. Right, Alfredo Gian, and the glint was his breastplate, which is shining in the sun as the late morning sun kind of hits it. His eagle-shaped breastplate. The sorceress Vestarok, and the shaven-headed tattooed mystic, and the glowing was his mace that he's holding up as going. So they're as you remember them, more or less, but looking through the lens, you don't have they're far away. You don't have the best view, but something seems kind of off about how they're standing. They're kind of slack in their posture. And I think if you try to look at Alfredo's sort of like big blonde bearded face, like half of his beard is gone, and in fact half of his face is gone, his lower face, and there's just sort of a cavity where his mouth should be on the left side.
Okay. I'm trying to remember, and I don't know if this came up in maybe any of the sessions that I was out for. We've found plenty of dead bodies, but no dead bodies so far that were like up and walking around. Is that true?
You were attacked by zombies. You were there for that, I believe.
Oh, that's right. No, I remember it now. Yeah, that they attached to the side of the boat.
Yeah, you had 4 zombies, including one of the thief who stole the magician's scrolls in Karamor.
Okay, all right. So this isn't like a totally new development. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I relate what I see to my companion, so it looks like at least one of them's dead, and if the other 2 are hanging around, they're either, what's keeping them on his feet, or maybe they're dead too. They all look a little bit weird. My money's on dead.
How far away are they? Like,
it's like hundreds of feet up the top of this dam.
Okay, so a completely implausible shot with a crossbow. Got it.
Yeah. It's not. I think you could I'd let you make it on a crit, is I guess what I'll say.
The only way I can see this possible is like if I put the telescope on the crossbow like a scope for a sniper.
Oh, yeah, and you said it's hundreds of feet away. I think
calculating drop and wind and everything.
Well, and I don't even know if crossbow range
yes.
When I say they don't go as far.
Yeah, what I'd say why a crit would work is because the wind would magically lift it. Like this is not a plausible thing to have happen.
Sure.
And you said that there was like part of a room that was exposed halfway.
Yeah. So when you were with I think I honestly, this is, if you'd spent real time kind of even just like looking up there instead of just sort of glancing around, you could see this with a naked eye. But I think it was just sort of the lens sort of like tracing it, turning your head up and trying to find them with the lens, right? Just let you see this more clearly, which is that below them on that side of the dam, right? What had seemed like it was kind of a platform that you could climb up to is actually a hollow space inside the dam, a room that had been exposed by the dam's collapse. And that is lower than the point at which the climb becomes like super sheer and narrow with just like waterfall rushing through it. Mm-hmm. Like it's you could make it up there without any problem.
Well, I mean, I think if that's the case, maybe we leave our golem friend down here to figure things out for himself, and could go up to that room.
Yeah, I think so. And if like right with the golem, it seems like it's either hope that its attention gets fixed back to at least the right door, and then maybe we could try again. Or, if we think that I don't like our chances in trying to get that thing to turn off by heavy blows and then stick its head in the door ourselves, whether or not that would even work. I don't think either of those options seems like it's likely for the short term. So checking out what looks like an easy climb makes sense as a next move.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, makes sense to me. I could give it a lesson in different polyhedral forms, but I don't know that it would be the best of students.
Yeah, sure. So you scramble up this kind of like rock scramble mess of debris, and mostly like crumbled stone and cement, up towards the this platform room in the dam, and like I said, you can do this with no difficulty. You probably want your like rope and pittons and to do it kind of carefully because you can slip, but with sort of like pythons but with all of that, you're really doing quite fine. And so as you get there, you sort of pull yourself off into, like you're clearly in something that used to be a room. At this point, there's no roof, but like as you sort of move into the space, like it becomes it becomes clear that like the ceiling is complete in parts of it, right? You can sort of like it's like I said, as if a flood had come through and ripped off a wall and part of the roof, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's like. And as you sort of look around, it's very obvious that water had rushed through the entire space. There are all of these stone shelves with like nothing on them. They're just empty. And there's this depression in the center of the floor where you can tell like something heavy used to kind of sit there, and it like slowly like caved in the floor until it has like just a space in its shape. And of course there's puddles all over the place. Everything's very damp. And on the far side of the room, you can see a set of stairs leading up and out. The walls are painted, and you see a figure wearing a crown painted and holding a key in one hand and a sword in the other. And I think there's like a bunch of different images of this king around the room. And you can sort of like, I'm not going to describe them in detail right now, but if you want to take a closer look, you definitely can. And then, so if you're facing, there's also a set of sort of stone doors on the right that have been burst open from the inside of the room that you are in, right? So they're sort of swung out as if the water had flowed through and like pushed through those doors. And you can see that there's like a sharp bronze pendulum has like swung down and has its like blade in the floor in the center of that doorway.
Okay.
Right. And yeah, so that's what you see in this room.
Can you give me the depression in the floor part one more time? I did.
Yeah. So there's like a rectangular depression in the floor.
Okay.
As if something very heavy had sat there for a long time, and it had sort of like its weight had slowly borne down on the floor.
Okay. All right. So it's just a depression. I just wasn't sure. I think I misheard at one point. I wasn't sure if it was part of the
floor. Probably like
6
by 3 or 7, like 7 by 3 or 7 by 4, something like that, like a big rectangular.
Okay. Well, given you said that the figure in the paintings are on the wall is wearing they're wearing a crown and they got a key and a sword.
Yeah, and if you want, I can describe the paintings in more detail if you folks are interested.
Well, I think Smith is going to fish the silver branching key with leaf-shaped teeth out of his pocket and see if it looks similar to the key that is being held up in these paintings?
Yeah, so if you walk up to the nearest painting, which is a painting of, you see the king like chopping off heads of this like pale, starved person. There's a bunch of them who are like crawling towards him, and some of them have like buckets of gold or whatever. He's just murdering them. But you sort of ignore that. You look at the key; it's the same key.
Okay. And that came from when that was a mummy that I think we took down, and there was the key, and was there a mask as well, and maybe I don't know if we got a sword from that, but I think they had a sword.
Yeah, Kix has the sword.
All right.
And in the paintings, is this guy ever putting his key into something?
No. So there are sort of three paintings. There's the one I just described. There's one where he's like burning some beautiful, like a group of beautiful people are all sort of being thrown onto these dark-skinned, white-haired people are being thrown onto a bonfire, and he's sort of supervising. And then the third one is him standing in like the middle of a ray of sunlight as waters roil around him and past him to drown people who seem to be in the darkness beneath him. Those are the three paintings of this person, this king.
So I'm going to guess that maybe we killed or re-killed this person earlier when we found a stone sarcophagus, which sounds like it's about the same dimensions as this depression, and it maybe got swept loose. Not that gives us any information, but I'm pretty sure that that's what's happening in that regard.
And then we have the other door where there's like a sharp edged pendulum that's crashed down.
Like a trap, it sounds like, kind of.
Yes.
And those doors had been blown open from the inside like it was the water, so maybe that trap just got like set off by the general destruction. Tripped it could be someone else coming through.
I think Gian is interested in going over there and looking through the doorway to see what she can see.
Yeah, sure. So if you go and peek your head through the door, you could sort of see there's another room on the other side. And if you sort of look, you can see, like these doors that popped open would probably have been like closed. They would have been flush with the wall, and they wouldn't have been able to be seen, right? You can sort of see that it's like it's a mechanism. The main thing that you sort of see, the room is a little bit bigger than the room that you were just in, but only because of the flood damage, right? You could sort of see, okay, like based on the basic dimensions, it seems like these two rooms would have been identical size had part of it not been collapsed by the flood. And in the center is a gigantic golden ship. And it seems like there's this sarcophagus. You didn't get a good look at the one you saw before, right? Because it was all underwater and like gross, but it's the same size basically. And there's a mummy that's kind of like it's so that the sarcophagus is like looks as if it's been like dumped out of the ship by the floodwaters, and the lid is off, and the mummy is kind of like hanging out like half out of the thing. There's a bunch of like shells with golden carved things, like everything. The flood has done real damage to this room. Everything's like smashed and crashed and wet. You can see these kinds of like what maybe like they're vaguely canine shaped things like covered in rags, but they're also kind of, I think the water has dissolved them kind of. So they're kind of like not really, they're just kind of like lying there, partly dissolved. There's a little bit of twitching and flopping, but they're not moving much. And in this image, you see the same king, but instead of all of the murder, instead of the one where he is killing the people offering him gold, those same pale people are having gold distributed to them by the king, right? And instead of burning the dark-skinned, white-haired people, right, he's offering them the gift of fire, right? Like sort of the opposite of what you saw in the other room, a much more magnanimous version. So that's kind of what you see, and then there is another door. There's another door. Just past it, which up a set of stairs, which is closed.
Well, if we open that door, we should be on the lookout for like bronze pendulums and the like. If there's one sprung trap, there's likely to be more. But how big is this ship that the sarcophagus was resting inside of?
So the sarcophagus is like 6x3, right? It's the same size as that depression, 6x7 or 7x4, 6x3, something like that. So it's another, say, 10 feet by, it's probably significantly longer and wide, maybe 15 feet long. It's a big ship, but it's made of gold, right? It's not really like it seems more like it's a decorative stand for the sarcophagus than it is a seaworthy vessel, or at least it appears to be made of gold.
Without like doing it in such a way that like nobody knows what's happening, like Smith makes sort of a head gesture towards this mummy and makes like, I'm going to give this a poke and see if it's still kicking. Does that sound all right?
Yeah, Gian will give the thumbs up, and I think she will be at the ready though. She'll have her knife at the ready. And
is this mummy
Kix,
wearing a mask? Oh, sorry.
Kix, did you want to say something?
I'm wondering if I'm feeling anything off of that weird mummy sword.
Not a thing. Nothing.
Not a thing. Okay. I'll just have it at the ready then.
Is this like half spilled mummy wearing like a mask or clutching anything in its arms that are dangling out?
No, it's just sort of like flopping around.
Sure. In that case, if it's kind of stuck, Smith is, if possible, going to try to like line up standing behind it, and give it a poke in the sense of just kind of bring the sledge down on its skull.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it gets smashed to powder, but it's too wet. There's just kind of like a squelch, and like it's like wet paper. Nothing really happens.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good. If the mummy's head has been squelched and it doesn't seem like it's twitching or anything, Smith will get close enough to try to like peer into the sarcophagus and see if there's any goodies tucked inside.
Sorry, can you say that one more time? I didn't quite.
Yeah, sure. Well, it sounds like the sarcophagus is tipped on its side. This mummy's like dangling out of it. Its head has been crushed. And assuming that the mummy is not like currently like twitching or anything, Smith is going to get closer and try to like look into that sarcophagus to see if there's anything like inside that container.
Nothing. There's like a thin layer of like water, like some puddles. I think you see that like the mummy's feet have kind of like dissolved in the water. There's some like loose wrappings, but nothing too. There's really nothing there. I'm gonna call a break here. I guess this is a good moment to take a little break, and we'll come back at 1:30 p.m. Is that good with everybody?
Sure.
Great. so we're just waiting another second for Nathan. Hello. Okay, so everybody is back. You back, Puckett?
Yep.
Yeah, I see you on in the chat now. So you're in this sort of room, and Smith has just been poking around inside the coffin. Did you climb onto the boat? I don't remember. No, so you haven't done anything really with the boat yet. And Kix, while all of this is going on, I'm kind of curious to see what you've been doing as Guillen sort of like opened the door, and then Smith was poking around in the coffin.
I'm looking around at the walls because it seems like this is the thing we killed, and I have its sword, and I'm trying to see if there's any information that any of these I'm trying to see if there's anything that I can figure out from the surroundings about this sword.
Right. So the main thing you can sort of tell from the surroundings about the sword is it's used. The king liked to murder people with it. At least that's what it looked like in that first room you were in.
Mm-hmm.
And if you followed Smith and Guillen into the second room, there's one painting probably where you see the king leading a group of people looking similar to those workers in darkness who were drowning in the first room, but
Mm-hmm.
now instead of sort of being like drowning and being sort of they're standing with straight postures in shining armor, and they're being led by the king with the sword pointing forward. And it's like identifiable as the same sword. I think if you look closely, like it's very
Mm-hmm.
clearly iron, not like it's a dark iron. It's not like a shining steel. It always seems to have some kind of like minor blemish or bit of rust, even in like the shining fancy depiction of the king.
Mm-hmm.
Right, it's harder to see, but it's there.
Right.
If you look closely, the artist couldn't or didn't conceal that. But like in terms of like, and I think the one thing that you can sort of see in both in the images in both rooms,
Mm-hmm.
right, is that there's a both again in that same sort of parallel picture in the first room of the people in the dark drowning, and in the other one of where those people are the soldiers being led by the king.
Mm-hmm.
There is sort of off to the side, either about to be washed away by the waters, or in the forces that that the king is leading the army against, a group of zombies who appear to be weeping.
Weeping zombies.
Weeping zombies.
Interesting. Yeah, otherwise I'm mostly just looking at stuff and trying to see if there's anything interesting or anything that'll help us puzzle through this mess.
So, like I said, there's really nothing in that first room. In the second room, if you pick up some of the sort of golden carvings and stuff, right, it becomes very clear that the gold isn't even like gilt, right? It's just paint, right? And there's like nothing. I mean, if you want to have like a little carved wooden, dog that's got some flaking gold paint on it to throw at something, you can pick up that. But there's nothing of real value here. It's all just sort of fake, cheap copies.
Right.
Maybe this is the false treasure room. Like looking back at the other door, the one that has the like sprung bronze trap, the doors might be in such a state that you can't really tell, but like looking back that direction, is it like doors set into an alcove in a super obvious way, or does it look like maybe these doors were not incredibly
I mean,
obvious?
Gian noticed this right away,
Oh,
right?
okay.
That there were that those doors, if they were shut, would be like flush against the wall,
Okay.
like that you wouldn't be able to really see them.
All right.
Right, like that. There's a right. These are sort of secret doors that are supposed to remain shut.
I think Smith will, he doesn't have the like sort of adventurer experience, but like in taking down this and that building in his day, he's found now and again like a panic room or some sort of like old bank vault, and he wonders, was like, this could be the same kind of thing. The gold's not real. Looks like the story on the wall is the one everybody'd like to believe.
Does anyone respond? I'm just sort of.
With that pendulum trap, are the edges? How sharp are the edges of it? I'm assuming they're pretty sharp.
I think they were pretty sharp. If you go down and take a close look, right, they've sort of like slammed against the stone floor, right, and have like sort of like scraped and kind of even lodged themselves into it. But the other one, it had to be pretty sharp to do that to begin with. But now it's kind of been blunted.
But
it could certainly be like sharpened up back to like a pretty sharp edge if that was something you wanted to do.
Not really. Not at the moment, anyway. Do you want to, Smith? Do you want to try to move this thing?
Which thing is that? The pendulum?
Yeah.
What for?
Well, to get into that room.
I think isn't that it's in between the room we came
Yeah.
from.
You were able to get by the pendulum. It wasn't like blocking the door so that you couldn't get through it.
Oh, okay. So we're in the room that has the flush doors.
Yeah, you've gone from one of those rooms into the other, and there's another door. There's another sort of stairway up and a door on the far side that is closed.
Yeah, so like we came through what might be like the real treasure room, the real tomb, which may or may not have had anything good in it other than the sarcophagus. And then it looks like the flood itself busted through from the real tomb, which had its wall ripped off, into like maybe the false tomb, which has, fake gold paint on everything and a big boat and a nice story that maybe isn't real painted on the wall. And then there's like another closed door.
You want to see what's through that next closed door?
Definitely.
Because we know what we're likely going to run into if we go up. I mean, at some point, we're going to hit the top of the dam, and we're going to hit the eagles.
Yep. With somebody had something that was like a 10-foot pole, right? Are these the kind of doors that we can open from the inside, giving them a push with a pole?
Give it a shot, see what happens.
All right, so Gian will go up there with her lamp lighting pole and kind of try to poke them open.
Yeah, so they push right open. They're not locked or anything like that. And it opens into a third room. Sorry, I'm a little confused about the layout here, so just give me 1 second. I've been trying to figure this out, and I think I'm just going to decide. Yeah, all right. So this is what happens. I'm not sure if this is what's supposed to happen, but this is what happens when you open this door. Right. It's the walls painted show tortures like you've never seen. Individuals being flayed and stretched and burned and you name it. I'm not going to go into too much detail. And there's like there's along the sort of top of the walls of these paintings, right, there are sort of like bodies falling into this space of torture, right? Like it's a pit or something. And there's like one or two figures, almost like demonic, that seem to be taking pleasure in the torture these people are undergoing, and that's like all along the walls. And then in the center of the room towards the left, so you're sort of like as you sort of walk up, right, there are stairs, and then on top of the stairs is the door, and so the doorway is a little bit like offset to the right of the wall that it's in. So off to the left from your doorway and sort of a little bit off center of the room to the left is a socket, like, or some kind of a deep depression, but not like the one in the fake in the tomb, rather, where in the real tomb, as Smith described it, right, where like something had been sitting there for a long time and it had just sort of like sunk into the floor. But this is more like it's like a space that something it's been built there, right? This gigantic socket, and there's a sort of concave. There's like a channel. Or imagine almost like a marble run, if you will, right, running from the door on the far side of the room down to this socket, and then on either side of the on either side of that sort of channel marble run kind of situation. Hold on. Sorry. I'm going to share the screen with you in just a second. Are these statues of these sort of what's going on here? Why won't this do what I want it to do? Oh, I see what I did wrong. This should work better. Fantastic. These stone statues of kind of like human-like figures holding large halberds. There's 8 of them in total. It's a little bit bigger here, right? And they look like this. It's 8 of them in total. There's like 2 rows of sorry, there's 16 in total. 2 rows of 4 along either side of that channel, and in front of each one is a jar with a symbol on it.
You said 16 total? There's like the rows are 2 deep on each side. Like it's 4 long and 2 deep on each side. Is that right?
Let me make sure I got that right. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, 2 rows of 4 each on each side of the channel. So a total of 16, 8 to either side. And they're just standing stock still. And you can see past them the door that channel runs through. It's a very large door. It's wooden, and it seems like it would break very easily.
Do these seem like, are these statues carved out of stone, or
yes,
okay.
Yes, they are stone.
And is the channel angled? I mean, is it like with gravity? If you put something in there, that it would go one way or the other? Or?
Yeah, you've been kind of like ascending through the dam as you go up through these rooms, right? And so just like there's a stairwell up to that next door, and the channel runs sort of down the center of that stairwell and then in the floor, right? So there's definitely
and then it ends in a socket that's.
Yeah, I'm curious about that socket. Like it's shaped how? Like
it's enormous. I called it a socket, but it's like the kind of thing that like a a hemisphere kind of situation, not a full hemisphere, but like, a crater. There we go, like a meteor crater or something, kind of.
But round sounds like, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is it like does it look like it's an impact crater, like something was rolled and then struck and left a crater, or is it like a shaped like bowl where something like comes to rest and it's like built into the floor?
Yes, that one.
The latter?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so there's the door we've come through. There's this door that kind of has something to do with the channel and the crater or whatever. Is there any other door in the room, or is that it?
I think there's a far door that's wood.
Um.
I thought I heard something about a wooden door.
Yeah, so the door at the top of those stairs that the channel runs to is like wooden and kind of like fragile.
Mm-hmm. From where we're standing, are any of the jars close enough to like make out what the symbols on the statue jar looks like?
They're not like, they're like kind of abstract symbols.
Okay.
And what are the jars made out of? Are they like a clay or?
They are glass jars.
Do the symbols look different from one another?
Right. Sorry, yeah. Each one has a different symbol on it. Oh, I take that back. If you go, you like go and approach them, and you can't really see them from outside, but you go and like approach the jars and take a look.
Well, from where we're standing, if I can't make them out, I was, it's a little bit preposterous. But before heading into, some sort of weird room full of statues with swords, I was going to maybe try the telescope if I can get it dialed into something that's not quite so far off, just to kind of like peek at a couple.
I mean, you can see that there's something like carved on the like written on the front of the jar, but you can't really get a good look from here.
Since the jars are glass, can we see what's in them?
Yeah, I misspoke. They're not glass. They're clay.
Smith is not so sentimental that he wouldn't do this, and so he'll tentatively tell Devil to go have a sniff around the room. It's sort of like, just in case things go badly, you can call him back.
Yeah, I mean, I think Devil is like deeply interested in these jars.
Mm-hmm.
I think he knows better than to like try to knock them over or whatever, but he's like sniffing at them and he's like he's nudging them a little bit. Like he's clearly into these jars, whatever's there.
Okay.
The statues ignore him. They act as one would expect statues to act.
All right. Well, once Smith's paranoia is assuaged, he'll go and start checking out these jars that seem interesting to a dog and see if there's anything inside that looks, interesting or smelly.
Sorry?
If
I just heard interesting or smelly. I missed the first part.
Okay. I'll go check out, what's got the dog's attention in the jars.
Yeah. So as you go and look at the jars, you take a close look. You can see there are 5 jars there. And they have.
I thought each of the statues has a jar.
Sorry. There's a jar in front, like sort of. There is a jar in between each row of. So there's 4 rows of guards. There's a jar sort of lined up with each row. There's actually a 5th jar. Oh, hold on. This is actually very confusing. And I thought I understood it, and now I'm confused again. Okay. Here is the story, right? So yes, each one has a jar, sort of in its not in front of it, but in its front, right? And you sort of like and each one has this is what was confusing about it. I finally figured it out. I am sorry, but it's cooler than I thought. So I'm gonna share that image again. My bad. I apologize. This was a prep fail on the GM's part, but I'm glad we figured it out because usually I just fudge this stuff, but this is better. So each statue has a jar, has 5 jars on it. Each individual statue.
Got it.
Right, and you can see as you go and you approach them, and I think this is what Devil was so into, was sniffing at the jars in one of the statues and running to another and then sniffing up. But he's a little dog, right? And these statues are kind of big. He's only getting to the bottom 2. So there are kind of 5 jars. One with a sun, one with a a stalk of wheat, or the top of a stalk of wheat, one with a mouth, one with a spiral, and one with an eye of Horus. And they all 8 of these have these jars sort of in depressions in their fronts.
Got it.
And if we want to continue on through the room, though, there's only the one door. Is that correct? There's only the wood door to give an exit to this.
Yes.
Well, I'm
but just to be clear, right? You can see. I think as you go up to the door, right? You can just see on the outside that there is there's sort of there is sort of a mechanism attached to the door that goes up into the ceiling of the room, right? And it's this big heavy thing, and you're not you can't exactly see what it does. Well, I think it goes up into the center, and when that door, again, this is a door that's designed to be open from the other side, right? You figured that out. So when it opens, this mechanism is activated, and it pulls on something up above the room. So it's very, very clearly visible, but it's hard to know what it does. And if you try to touch it, it's clearly very sturdy. And it's sort of designed. You can see that when the door either opens or breaks or whatever, right? It loses its support, right? And that's kind of
Does any part of it look lined up with that channel in some way? It's going to dump something into the channel, maybe?
No, the channel, you can't sort of see, the channel runs into the next room, but you can't really see exactly what's kind of going on with that.
Okay, so the channel extends into sort of the fake gold room.
No, it leads up to the other door.
Oh, okay, so it goes through the little stairs and beyond into whatever's in the next room. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
Yeah, well, I don't know that I want to be standing in front of the doors when they open.
Yeah. Whether it might be the same trick as we saw sprung with a big pendulum, or it could be something that we don't know. But either way, I think you're right about not wanting to be near these doors when whatever happens. If so these jars that are I'm guessing they're like sitting in little alcoves in the statue's like torso. It looks like, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Are they like flush enough that you can or cannot sort of like try to like peek and see if anything's inside the jars?
I mean, you'd have to like take the jar out and open it.
Yeah. I don't want to mess with it yet because they're these axes that they're holding look sharp enough that if they are in some way able to use them, I don't want to be anywhere near that either.
I'm kind of thinking of if we had a way of springing the doors open without having to be right there to see what happens would be. And we could try to do something with the ropes, and they have like the doors have handles for opening.
Yes.
Here's an idea.
I mean, no, they don't. Not from this side.
You said that this wooden door looks pretty feeble. Does it look like it would be feeble enough that like one good whack with a sledge and it's going to come down?
Oh, easily.
So I don't know what we would attach this to, and this would be the trickiest part. But I feel like one option, maybe with if we're willing to like potentially, if we have to like run away from here, we could use some like pythons and something to like make some fasteners in the ceiling and wall or whatever. Make almost our own trap, like tie a rope to the end of the sledge, and it's held up by something. But that rope is something that we can either hold from a distance, or if we want to be well away from it, we can just set it to be burned. I can use my blowtorch and just set the blowtorch to on and have it burn through a rope. At such point, then the sled will go knock the door, and then whatever happens, and we don't have to be anywhere close.
I just want to clarify. So you're concerned about what's going to come through the door.
Well, it looks like there's some sort of mechanism here, right?
Right. Okay. Yes, absolutely.
And so far, I think, as I've understood it, this sounds like a mechanism I don't want to be near when the door is busted and gives way and something happens with this mechanism.
Got it. Yeah, yeah. So you could definitely, like, I honestly, like I said, you could. This is a pretty fragile looking door. Doesn't seem like it's designed to really stay shut, if that makes sense. So yeah, like basically any, like if you want to try to, like, what you described should work just fine, I think.
Yeah, it's mostly just about wanting to maybe be a room or two away when this goes down, but that's the hope. I'm not going to necessarily commit to that until the group is like pro or against. But
Gian Kicks, what's your take on this situation?
I mean, that plan sounds okay. I was also thinking just like doing a fire that would burn the door.
Oh, that's a good idea too. Yeah,
I like the idea
What's
of not being
involved?
anywhere near that door, because this place seems like it might have a fair number of traps. And while a flimsy wooden door shouldn't necessarily be one of them, there may be a tripwire, it may be a pressure plate or something along those lines. I'm totally okay with not being in the path of anything that could come through it.
The fire idea I like, just for simplicity. Could some of these crossbow bolts, have a little bit of, fire improvised on the end of them, and we can just like thonk them into the door from a healthy.
You tried that. The crossbow bolts are not so easy to light on fire because you don't have oil or anything. I mean, I think you have Guillen's 10-foot pole with a wick, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you could probably use. You have the last time you tried it, I think you used your other velvet slipper, Guillen. You could use your last one to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like all of these are definitely things you could use.
Oh, I did take one waterlogged church ledger that I could use some especially damaged pages from as like they've had a couple of days to get a little drier. We could pack them around the bottom, and light them and back up, and hopefully that they'll the fire will spread.
Yeah, this is this.
Kindling.
The one thing I'll say is that this place is still pretty damp, right? So I think like you I don't know that wet paper is enough to get the damp wood going. You need something that will be able to like hold to it for a little bit.
Well, given the era, the kind of blowtorch that I probably have probably looks like this. Let me.
Yeah. Yes, you have a blowtorch. That's bound to light things on fire.
Yeah, well, like the kind that I'm thinking, I saw in a silent film recently that they are the kind that you can sort of set it and forget it, which it's a comical effect in the film. But they let me grab a good picture of one, and that might be kind of similar to the type that I have here. This is as good as any, and I'll link it in the chat. But it would sit upright, and you can just sort of set it to on, and walk away. Almost like a lamp. And it's not the kind that I saw in this film. It was not like the sort of hot jet blowtorch. She was, flaming and spitting flame, but it was not like the hot blue flame kind.
Sure. The link isn't working for me. The image doesn't.
Dang it!
I just get through. But I understand what you're describing.
Oh, that's weird. The picture. I'll grab another link here and we'll see if that works. But copy image location. Try that. How's that one do?
Yeah. Yep. I see that. That's cool. Sure.
I'll just kind of set it to the side, hopefully out of the path of anything that might happen. But if it's not, that's how it goes.
So where is everybody positioning themselves as before you set this going? Kix, Gian, and Smith. Kix first.
Didn't you say something about fastening climbing gear to the ceiling? Or did I mishear that?
That was an idea at one point before it was like the simpler idea of just like set the door on fire and burn it instead of trying to, make a pendulum out of a sledgehammer. This seems easier.
But we could still suspend ourselves from the roof to be out of the way.
Well, I'm thinking of just being in another room entirely.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good.
Like in the fake treasure room.
You're the demo person, so I'm going to follow you on this.
Yeah, like my thinking here is like sort of set this, you guys can already be in the other room. And the blowtorch is not so hot that this is going to catch like immediately and burn down immediately. I'll have, I think, plenty of time to like get back into that other room, and then we can kind of like watch and wait and see how it goes from the other room.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to set up any climbing gear on the outside of the dam just in case we need to be clear of that little balcony? Like if something's coming through it?
Yeah, sure. If something's going to just like keep rolling Indiana Jones style.
Yeah, I'm thinking Dark Souls, but
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Just just as you're discussing, this is just to remind you, like what would be very visibly obvious to you in this room, right? Is that there is the channel, right, that runs through down to that depression,
right,
Yeah.
and that ends in this room. So theoretically, it shouldn't keep going, but
yeah. So I just want to just remind you that that's there. But yes, certainly being careful is always good. So you all sort of back out to the place with the boat and the spilled out mummy and stuff, the fake gold stuff. That one room back, or do you go all the way back to the?
I'm thinking the fake gold room, just because that seems close enough to like see what's happening in the other room.
Well, it's tough because right, if you're all the way down there, right, there's you have to right, you can't really see unless you're at the top of the stairs at the entryway to the depression statue room.
That works.
All right,
sure.
So you just sort of go back to the entryway. How about Kix and Gian? Are you also at the entryway, or are you like further back?
Yeah, I think the entryway. I'm assuming that whatever comes out is gonna end up probably in that depression. So, I'm not overly concerned about whatever's coming down. I mean, it seems like this has all been set up deliberately to kind of lead whatever that is down to that depression.
I'm just going to make sure
that is what it sounds like, isn't it?
I'm just going to make sure I'm behind an actual wall that looks like it, is carved out of stone, or like, that it doesn't look like something could burst through or come through.
Sure. If you want to do like one of those like flat, like I don't remember, like the stealth game, like flat up next to the wall by the door that you can like peek your head around, kind of moves.
Yeah.
Smith will be, braced for if it looks like something's going to start coming down that chute to like you put some space because whatever it is, even if it just looks like it's water, I don't necessarily want to be weird, like too close to it. I don't want it splashing on me. Who knows what's going on with that if it were water.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So you wait, and the blowtorch starts. It takes a few minutes to get the edge of the door lit, and then the rest of the door doesn't even really have to light on fire because, like, the sort of weight of the trap mechanism and the general flimsiness of the door, like just losing that bit of support, the door collapses. Right, the mechanism strikes. Right, you hear a kind of click, and then a rumble. And then for a brief moment, there's nothing. Do you do anything or do you wait?
I'll back up. I'll back up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So that if the doors that are currently open were to snap closed, that I'm not like stuck in this room with the statue.
Yeah, sure. So after anyone else in the silence, do you do anything in that pregnant moment of silence?
I'm going to move a little bit farther back.
Okay. Yeah. So after a few 6, 8, 10 seconds of silence, the rumble, you all of a sudden hear the rumbling increasing, and then you hear a crash and a thunk, and then much louder rumbling coming from the room on the far side of the door that just burned down. And rolling down the stairwell is a gigantic crystal ball moving at about the pace of like a quickly running human being. It takes up the entire sort of stairwell up to that door, right? Like it fills up the whole space, and it's sort of running down the channel. Does anybody move to do anything, or do you just watch it roll?
Does it look like the crystal sphere is of sufficient size that if it like hits that depression or reaches that depression, it'll like be totally closing off that room?
No, I mean you could definitely get into the room. The room's very large, for sure. If you think about it, right, there's enough space for the sphere to move through the channel in between the rows of statues without like touching them.
Okay,
to give you a sense of the space, right?
And less in like a sense of like taking the time to observe this now, but like what the sense has been up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
That depression, it ends like not in the middle of the room, but at the far side of the room near the opposite entrance, right?
No, the depression is kind of towards the center of the room, a little bit from the doorway where you're standing, a little bit off center to the left, but towards the center of the room.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have any bright ideas in this quick moment here other than like stay well away. Maybe go down the stairs just enough to kind of like keep it in an eye shot.
Anybody else taking any actions? It's moving. It's moving, like I said, as fast as a running person. It's probably, as it comes through the doorway, about equidistant from the depression as you are at the doorway, just to sort of give you a sense. Maybe a little bit closer because it's a little bit, but like but yeah, if no one does anything to stop it, it rolls straight down and like hits that depression, and it's got a lot of momentum. You see it kind of like rock out almost as if it's gonna like roll over, but then settle back in and rock the other way, right? And it rocks, rock as it slowly slows and settles into the depression. And as it does so, you can't really see them so well but you see the statues start to move.
Cool. There are 8 of these, right?
There are 8 of them.
8 or 16?
8. There's 4 on either side of the channel, right? 6. Sorry. The way this is written is super confusing. There are 16. 2 rows of 4 guards on. You know what? I'm going to say there are 8. 2 rows of 4 guards, 1 row on each side of the channel.
Okay.
16 sounds insane looking at these things. So we'll say 8. It is phrased poorly.
Cool. Not in a in character sense.
Who has
And
who has
Right.
what?
the mask?
Oh,
I
not
do.
me.
Yeah, Gian has the mask.
Yeah, let me borrow the mask for a moment.
Okay.
Here, I'll if we're getting clever here, I'll give you the key too. I'll give you all the kit.
Yeah. So I'll put the mask on and I'll hold the key. I'll look at the paintings in. I'll make sure that the key is in the correct hand, so that it syncs up with the paintings in the chamber that appears to be the actual burial chamber, and put the sword in the other hand. Does that do anything to the statues?
Are you doing it? Do you I mean, so they if you're, what do you like move into the room where they've come alive to sort of get it to their line of sight? If they start moving towards you, and I think they are confused. And they're not immediately sure what to do. Give me a charisma save.
Why not? And that is D20 under. What's my charisma right now? D20 under 10. I got a 50-50 shot.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not it. That's a 16.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think most of them sort of like they start to approach you, and they're not fast. They sort of like do this slow stomping amble towards you, and the one that is closest to you, like starts to raise their halberd.
Yeah.
Smith says if we can drag them. Yeah, how big are the rooms that we've been operating in?
I mean, they're very large rooms, right?
Okay.
Like I again, I'm not great with exact measurements, but
Sure.
these are like big hall kind of spaces, right? That's why this big boat with this big sarcophagus is sitting in the middle of this room very comfortably, right?
Yeah.
They're not cramped spaces.
Well, Smith will say if we can draw all of them through that door in here, maybe I can skirt around and try to smash that crystal ball, and that'll do something. I like that idea a little bit better than us trying to fight all 8 of these.
Yeah, that's a good plan.
If they're slow, maybe we can, kind of lead them like a dog on a leash.
All right. So I will proceed to try to kite these things.
Yeah, that was my attempt to make an in-universe version of kiting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so look, only one of them can fit through the door at a time anyway, right? Because they're big statue things, and it's like a single doorway.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big door, but it's not like designed to have like legions of troops march through them, in rank. So, if you pull back through that door, only one is going to be able to go through at a time.
Okay.
Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so if you start to move through kicks, like that first one will follow again, pretty slowly. I think it probably even takes a swing at you. That just misses.
Well, that's just rude,
right? As you're like ducking back out, into the next room. Yeah, so it comes, and they're coming down the stairs kind of single file slowly. Gian, where are you in all of this? I just want to get a sense of where you are in the physical space. You're muted.
Gian's been kind of hanging back to see like what happened with the ball coming down the channel. I think at this point, I think Gian is. I think Gian looks over at Smith and says, do you think two of us should be trying to destroy that thing, or do you think you can do it by yourself? Smith.
Sorry. Oh, I thought that was addressed not to me. Can you give me that again?
Yeah, well, I'm just wondering, like, because you're planning to go up to try to
If
break that.
yeah, if it seems like, it's seeming like maybe it won't work if they're coming through really slow and one at a time, I don't know that we're going to be able to draw all 8 of them into this room in such a way, that we can kind of have them slowly chasing, but not super threatening. I don't know if that's going to work, but I don't know if it's early enough to be sure about that or not. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, so I think at this point, Gian is going to watch as right the plan goes into motion, and I think is either I mean, is going to wait to see whether she needs to kind of help with kind of distracting the statue guards, or whether she should go up and try to kind of help Smith out.
Okay, so you're sort of like pulling yourself back to the walls in the room to sort of like watch how it plays out and see if you need to jump in.
Right.
So yeah, I think so. Kix, you're coming down the stairs back into the real tomb, right? And you've got these Kix being chased by things seems to be the theme of the past few sessions here. And you come down the stairs, and this statue is following you pretty slowly. You can sort of like keep your pace ahead of it. And Smith. So as the first one, but they're all coming pretty, like they're right up behind each other, right? They're not separating, but they are single file at first. And they don't seem to have tactics that you can sort of tell that right. There's not a lot of intelligence in evidence yet, right? So what's your kind of approach as Kix is sort of like pulling them deeper into the room, and they sort of start to, probably once they get past that stairwell, right? They sort of start pulling more, like the ones behind pull to get even, right? So they're sort of, as opposed to in single file, now they're in the room. They're like starting to get into ranks.
Are they like, I'm imagining in my head that, like, in a room like this, that if Kix is more over in this direction, and then hopefully the statues are kind of like going that way, that I'm more over here, and
yeah,
and
I mean
my face is the door. Like I'm waiting for the moment when it seems like the last of the 8 is like in this room, and I'm going to try to like go in the room behind them.
Yeah, I mean they're pulled in, and they're 100%.
Okay,
like,
cool.
Like focused on Kix. I think the decision to sort of like the mask and the key and the sword definitely got their attention, even if it wasn't maybe the attention she wanted.
If that's the case, I'll dash in the other room and just start. I think Smith thinks for a split second like breaking this could be bad, but it seems like letting it be not broken is worse. So he's gonna like try to land a mighty thwack on this crystal and hope that it is as fragile as crystal has been in his experience.
I need you to roll strength save.
Yeah, this will fail, but we'll roll it anyway. Yeah, 19.
Oh, at least it wasn't 20. Yeah, so you hit it sort of like square on the top, right? Like you hit it clean. I think what you sort of realize as the reverberation comes back down your arms, is that, right? This isn't like glass crystal, right? This is like some kind of a, like it looks like crystal, but it's more like diamond, right?
Okay.
It's like a really very hard substance, and it's like there's some give and maybe some flaking under the some chips come off under the sledgehammer, but like it doesn't do any real damage. And I think kicks.
I'm gonna back up.
Yeah, but kicks, you see at the moment that you sort of hear the impact, the slight crack or whatever, the ting, whatever sound the sledgehammer makes against the ball, you see them sort of like, it's not quite a spasm because they're made of stone, but there's like a kind of shiver, especially the jars kind of rattle for a second before they sort of persist to follow.
The jars rattle?
Yeah, I mean, part of just as they're sort of like, I mean, the statues shiver and the jars kind of rattle.
Okay, the jars in their torsos.
Yeah.
So when I see that this is not as fragile as the crystal that I'm familiar with, I think of the safety lessons I was given as a destructor back in the day, and a line rings through my head of burns through anything. And so I kind of drop low, and so this crystal sphere is sitting in that depression, right? So it's not, like, I'm imagining it's the circle or the sphere of it is mostly like exposed, right? And then just sitting in a shallow depression.
Well, the depression's deep enough that it stopped it, but like, say it's like the bottom quarter of it is in the depression, right?
Right. So like I'll get as far under the curve as physics allows, and I'm going to press flush against it my sub flare, a one-shot pistol that will launch a burning flare immediately skywards, burning through any substance in the way and leaving a fist-width hole. So I'm going to like push that, like, I don't have anything spherical. We'll pretend this is spherical.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to push this like right up against it, such that even when it orients and goes straight up, it's going to cut through, an overhanging part of the sphere.
Mm-hmm.
And I will fire it.
Yeah, and it does what you expect it to, right? Which is it punches through the crystal sphere. It doesn't go all the way through, and you are like shot back, and like, I mean, like, right? I think you probably take D4 damage.
Fair.
Right, just because of like the blast and the hardness. But two things kind of happen. So you're sort of like pushed back. You take D4 damage. I'm imagining like this is to your arm and shoulder, right? But it pushes. It does what you want to do in the other direction too, which is it punches right up into the crystal. Right, there's a fish-shaped hole. It doesn't punch all the way through. It's solid. This ball. But the momentum also like rocks it back out of the socket. And it's sort of like sitting on the edge, not quite still, kind of like rolling around in the channel a little bit. But kicks, you can see, you hear the explosion. And again, remind me, which room are you in? Were you upstairs in the crystal ballroom watching Smith, or down watching kicks in the?
Well, I mean, I really think, I think originally was down watching kicks, but I think what Gian would do is after that first ping on the ball and watching the reaction of those statues, I think Gian would hightail it up to help Smith out, to see, right, kind of crossed her mind that is what would work, and so would kind of be running up to see up in that room with the crystal what's going on, and if she needed to do something else.
Yeah, so I think as you get up there, right, you see Smith kind of like being like knocked back, right, and you see the ball sort of, and it's like teetering up on the edge of the socket, and as you're seeing kicks, right at that burst, right, you hear the sound, you see the statue stand stock still again. So again, as you see the ball sort of like sitting there on the channel, sort of like wobbling. What do you do?
Well, Well, okay, so but and it has a hole in it now, or
Yeah, you probably can't see the hole because of because it's sort of like rolled up to the top. But there's now like there's a hole.
yeah.
It's probably glowing, right? Because it's got this burning flare in the middle of it.
My sledge
Um,
is probably on the floor nearby.
yes, the sledge is probably on the floor nearby, probably right by the edge of the socket.
Yeah, I think yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, take that sledgehammer and use it as a wedge
Yeah,
underneath the
absolutely.
crystal.
Yeah, and just to do what with it? To wedge it and do what?
Well, it's teetering. I mean, is it out of the socket right
It's out
now?
of the socket, up in the channel, but like the slope, like there's a slope that's pushing it back in, and the force of the flare shot has pushed it the other way. So it's sort of like the two things are sort of like if you leave it long enough, it will roll back into the
Mhm.
socket, right? That's just physics. But you've got like a moment where it's
Yeah, I think I'll just wedge it underneath to just keep it where it is.
yeah, I think that works. That works just fine. And it sort of like rests itself. I'm kind of picturing when you say wedge under, like it's wedged under the edge of the ball, but also so that it's like kind of on the edge of the socket, right? So
Uh-huh.
like the handle of the sledgehammer is kind of like it's resting on that, like wedged underneath it, so it can't quite like roll all the
Mhm.
way back down in.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what you're describing.
Yeah. I mean, because I'm not sure whether what was effective was like the hurting of the ball or getting it out of the socket. So
Yeah, and I mean,
just to
so
be
so
safe.
so yeah, so it sits there, and the kicks, the statues have ceased to move, and maybe that's a good moment to take our next break. Let's come back at 35 past.
Sure.
Does that work for folks? And then, well, yeah.
I'm back from break, Jesse.
Wonderful, wonderful. We're just waiting on Robbie, and then we will proceed. Okay. This is like the most dungeony part of the adventure so far. Okay. So yeah, so you have removed the crystal ball from the sphere from the socket, stopping these statues. So Kix, you see the statues stop moving. You probably heard a lot of the sounds coming from the room upstairs. What do you do?
I wait a second just to make sure they've stopped, and then I'm going to carefully go around them and start proceeding back up the hallway.
Yeah, so you come across this sort of like tableau of Smith, like, on the floor, kind of probably cradling his arm and shoulder a little bit, and Gian probably sort of. What are you doing, Gian? So Gian probably standing near. Well, I should ask, what posture does Kix find you? Like a minute or so after after you've settled the ball in.
I think Gian, you see Gian kind of peering around the doorway down towards where Kix would be coming up, kind of looking to see if it's Kix or the statues coming up from that direction.
I think Smith is like working the arm that got blasted back when the thing fired, and also just kind of like you would sort of like test extremely gingerly like a Jenga tower, just seeing how secure the wedging of the sledge and the ball seem, just to make sure that it's not gonna work itself loose.
So like it's not like perfectly, it's a sledgehammer under, it's very much jerry rigged, but like great, it seems to be more. Certainly for the moment, like it's stable if you don't fiddle with it too much, or if someone doesn't fiddle with it too much.
I think if it seems fairly stable, Smith is going to go back to either of the rooms that we've been through before, with an eye for anything that looks like sturdy enough to bear the weight of this crystal ball, that maybe we could just jam it in the socket, that if something does work itself loose, it just physically won't be able to occupy the space.
I mean, so like there's all of this like kind of crap in the closest room, right, that you could probably dump in there.
Mm-hmm.
That wouldn't just like, you've got like wood and bronze stuff, right, that would stop it from sitting flush in the socket. You just like drop that in there.
Sure. Yeah, I'll get to work sort of like, with my arm that's not quite so sore, hefting what I can and dumping it in.
Yeah, I mean that works just fine. You get it. It's there. We don't have to sort of like zoom in on this too much.
For these statues that are frozen, are any of them frozen with their axes here in a position that might make trying to yoink it loose more feasible?
I mean, not like they're all gripping their axes,
Mm-hmm.
right? You could try trying to chip away at their stone fingers or something, but it would take work and time. Like it wouldn't be an easy. They're not just going to slide right out.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think while some of that is going on, Gian is not going to exit the room, but is she's at least going to go up to the burned doors to see what she might be able to see from this side.
Sure. So you see a room with like black and white tiles, like a chessboard. There, a lot of them. There's kind of like in the middle of this room, a bunch of them are like cracked, right? Like as if something heavy fell in on them, right? And if you look up, you can see a big gaping hole in the ceiling above them, presumably where the sphere fell from, after the door opened. And then there's, around the edges of the room, while you're looking up there, you can see the parts of the ceiling that are not broken, right? There are these kinds of like carved faces, one above each one of the big square tiles, holding a human face, which is making a kind of like a whistling, blowing, like a kind of pursed lip expression, and in the pursed lip is like a little tube. And then along the walls are these black sculptures of soldiers.
And the faces on the ceiling are above the colored.
Yeah, there's sort of like one per. If you remember, if the ground is like a chessboard, right? Above each individual square is a single face, sort of.
Uh-huh.
And right, obviously, the ones in the middle, there's probably like 4 that are missing now, right? Because the ball came through the ceiling there. But like for the most, and that directly above where you have like those broken tiles. Yeah.
Well, I think Ian will wait at least until everything is settled with the crystal ball and that before we
sure.
proceed on.
So Kix, while Gian is sort of like poking her head into the room in front, and Smith is like gathering stuff to fill up the divot. What are you up to?
I'm going to help Smith because I don't want these murder monkeys coming back to, haunt us.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it happens. You get done quicker, right? That's sort of like it probably takes you like 5 minutes to get this all together and dump it in there.
Once it seems sufficiently full, I'll pull my sledge out if that's possible with Howard's wedged in there.
Yeah. You can. I think like it kind of wants to come out, like just like because if you pull it down along the slope and like it's got the pressure from the So you and the sphere like rocks down. And where are you, Kix, while this is happening? Are you down? Are you up in the room with Smith, or are you down in the other room?
I'm helping Smith.
Right. So the it kind of like rocks down, and you hear like a kind of crunching, and like some of the wood is like splintering underneath. Right. And you hear maybe the occasion, like there's some crunching and some snaps, but it kind of settles in, right, raised up, right, not sitting in the socket, but like kind of on top of the crap that's in there. And you don't hear anything from downstairs.
With that, with seemingly stable, I'm gonna look around and see if it looks like the blowtorch was positioned in a place where did it get crushed, or is it like just knocked over? Or?
It's crushed.
All right.
It's crushed. Yeah. Everything in that stairwell was like the ball fits perfectly in that space.
Got it.
It's almost like it was built for it. So what would you folks like to do next? You can it's because you're still there's still like a straight line, and you can like feel the breeze coming in from the open wall all the way down at the bottom of the stairs. It's been probably not all that long. It's probably this whole thing probably took like an hour, 50 minutes of your time. You moved quickly, and it's not, you didn't cover a huge amount of ground. But yeah.
Well, Gian will point out the room that she saw and says, I don't entirely like the look of the faces with those straws coming out of their mouths. Who knows what else is going to come out of those mouths with that kind of setup?
Who does know? Not me.
If those were on the side of a building, they'd be proper gargoyles. But here, I don't know.
And you said around the edge there were also statues. Do you say statues around the edge of that
Yeah,
room?
around the whole sort of the whole like along lining all four walls of the room are statues of soldiers. A lot like the soldiers in the fake tomb,
Uh-huh.
right? On that picture, right? In the same kind of armor. Much less sort of like fierce and feral looking than the statues that were chasing you before, right? These seem much more like sort of official and officious.
Is this actual armor, or is this armor that's just like carved?
Just carved.
Okay.
Just they're kind of like a black marble, and they're not so they haven't been polished recently, but they've got kind of like a smoothness to them.
Mm. You said the floor is divided up into tiles, and those are just tiles, or they are colored like a chessboard or checkerboard or whatever.
They're tiles like in a chessboard pattern.
Okay, so there is like an alternating color.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Okay,
Black and white and alternating.
Got it.
Well, this seems like maybe a good opportunity for the 10-foot pole to maybe I sit on this side, and if there was one within reach where I could give a kind of real sharp jab to it, but without being in that room to see what might happen.
Yep, no, definitely.
How many of those black stone statues are in the other room?
Let's say it's one per tile, and so if it's a checkerboard, that's 8 by 8.
64.
So
all right.
So so it's not 64. It's going to be 32.
Half for the matching colors. Okay.
Yeah. Well, just being they're along the walls, right? So if you have like 8 across the bottom,
got it.
And then I guess it's 8 plus 12 plus 8, right? So 16 plus 12 is 26, 28, 38. There's 38 of them.
Yeah. And is there a door out of that room?
Yeah, there's another stairwell on the far side.
On the far side, yeah. Okay.
And is it the kind of room where to walk across this room at all, you like have to be stepping on the tiles, or is there like space around the perimeter?
No. The whole floor is this tiled black and white checkered tile floor.
Got it. Is the pole thing happening? Is that what was?
Yeah, I mean, I think Gian would be willing to, as I say, I'm not stepping into the room yet, but we'll kind of go to a tile nearby and give it a good jab.
Yeah, nothing happens.
Which color was it that got poked when nothing happened?
Did you poke a tile, or I thought you poked a statue?
No, a tile.
Oh, well, nothing happens there either.
Okay.
Which color was it? Like if we poke whatever the opposite color of the one is that got poked, does anything happen then?
No, nothing happens.
I mean, the floor has taken some pretty heavy damage. Smith says, because like, like the crystal sphere like dropped in the more or less middle of the room and then like rolled across some of the floor. So there's like a solid like, what, 20% of it that's probably pretty ruined. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean the tiles are all like cracked and crushed underneath there.
Yeah.
Right.
Does it look like there was any space under the floor, like for pressure plates or anything like that?
Like where the tiles have been crushed, is there anything underneath? Yeah.
There's floor underneath. You can't get the best look from the edge of the room, but there's like mortar, grout, right? Maybe some stone, right? The stone of the dam.
Smith will venture out, walking only on the like parts of the floor that have been crushed under the path of the crystal sphere.
Right. So it's only really been crushed in the center. But if you sort of like you're walking that sort of like you can tell the route it took because there's like you're just sort of following its route to the middle of the room.
Mm-hmm. Well, or is it when it rolled? Did it roll along a channel or something? Or?
Yeah, it's sort of like I think there's sort of like you could see it wasn't exactly the channel from the room below sort of continues to an extent. Yeah,
so I'll walk in the channel.
Yeah, nothing happens as you get to the center of the room.
All right. I'll make for the other door slowly and cautiously.
Yeah, nothing happens. You get to the top of the stairs. You get to the bottom of the stairs and then walk up the stairs and nothing happens. You're at the door.
What kind of door?
The door. It's a plain door. Looks like the other doors that you've seen.
Well, some of it is it wood or stone or?
Sorry, this is it's another wooden door. It's in better shape than the one from the previous room. It's a wooden door. Sort of big, single door with hinges on one side. There doesn't seem to be a locking mechanism or anything.
Mm-hmm. And there is or isn't like a handle or similar to open it from this side.
There's a handle. You can pull it open.
I won't do that yet. I won't go that. I'm not
yeah,
but do that yet.
It seems sort of like a very very straightforward.
Well, if there's a handle on this one, we could try the whole rope thing. We just kind of attach the rope. You could come back down here. Mm-hmm. We could.
Sure thing. I'm all about caution. Let's do it.
Okay. Yeah. How far back do you folks all stand?
I think if we could get all the way across the marble tile room so that we're basically standing back in the.
Yeah, I think you could do that. It takes like all three of your ropes to do it, though, right?
Yeah,
it's like it's at the top of the stairs, down across these big room, but you can tie them all together and do it. It takes you a couple minutes, and you yank, the door pops right open. Nothing happens.
All right. We'll untie our ropes. So back into their individual single ropes. What stands on the other side of the door we've opened?
So there's like a sort of big. It feels kind of like an entry hall. It's basically blank, and there is like a gigantic stone door. That has a big piece of like granite, like leaning up against it, sort of to bar it. Like you're on the inside, as if to bar it from the outside. And like it's set to like make it so you can't push the door open from the outside. But like you could definitely like get the right angle and just like kind of yank it away. Right? It's not meant to keep anyone in; it's there to keep people out.
And otherwise, this room is like you said, mostly blank, featureless.
And it's not big. It's not nearly as big as the other ones. It feels kind of like a vestibule.
What do you think, folks?
Well, I would like to know like whether the barring of the store was a recent thing or whether it's been there for a while, set up like that. But a big piece of granite
It's very, very. It's like enormous.
Like person sized, 2 people tall.
Like it's like 2 people tall and like a person and a half wide.
Mm.
But because it's like leaning against the door, right? So it's sort of like
Right.
set so that like directly in that way, so that like you can't push the door open, but like from either side, it's much more precariously kind of,
And
it's a
there are no other pieces of granite like this just laying around in the room.
No, you can sort of see it's hard to tell exactly what it was, but it was like dropped by some kind of mechanism at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting.
Right.
Like there's a space in the ceiling where it used to be, or
yeah, exactly.
Okay, interesting.
Right.
Did we hear any sounds that might have indicated that dropped as a result of something we did?
No, this has been here a very, very, very long time.
Yeah, we did hear some sounds when the crystal ball dropped, but okay.
Right. I think you can sort of put 2 and 2 together, and you're like, whenever this was built and the body was left here, right, they needed to bar the door after them. So they like set up something that would like relieve,
right. This was
that would like after 10 minutes or an hour or whatever, right when they got out, would crash down and seal it.
Okay, interesting. Well, if it seems like we've got the power, and that if we take the time to find the angles to open it, is there anyone have a feeling about not opening it, or that we should make a go of it?
Yeah, I think that we're fine to make a go of moving this out so we can get through.
Sounds good to me.
Works for me.
So I guess we'll try to like push it to the side in such a way that it'll kind of like move and at least let us open the door part way, or
yeah, I mean, you have no problem, just like levering it out of the way and opening the door, right?
Cool.
You can like walk right out through, and it's now probably early afternoon, right? The zombies are gone, or at least not immediately visible. Well, actually,
we're at the top of the dam.
Yeah, you're right. Well, actually, I take that back. You come out onto kind of a ledge, and you're looking straight forward into the lands beyond the dam, right? And sort of like there's like a strong whiff of just like fetid mold and rot, right? It just it feels like something was like if you've ever opened like a jar of something that has gone quite bad, right? That sort of like when the jar pops and there's like that like whiff just sort of stink just sort of like comes up into the air. It's that kind of vibe. And you can see, the Loch River winding around sort of to the northeast, much like thin and wobbly, and the bottom of what used to be the lake created by the dam, with all of these like rainbow colored weeds like laid out on the ground, with sunlight kind of gleaming strangely off of something along the walls of what is now a deep valley and used to be a lake. The ground is sort of mostly blue-gray, probably mud, although you can't quite tell from here. And it's like deadly silent, but you get a sense of movement on the valley floor. Like there are people or things sort of like moving around. And it just like it feels as you come up and see this as if like something terrible has been revealed to you, as if like a black sheet has been pulled back from a naked corpse. Is the language that they use that I sort of like. So that's kind of what you can see just like with the naked eye from the top of the dam. And as you look at your immediate surroundings, right, they're sort of like you're not exactly on the very top, right? It's sort of like there's a higher level behind you that the door is sort of in, and you can see again this door was carved to look like natural rock on the outside, right? It's kind of hidden, and to either side of you are sort of stairs going up to the very top level of the dam where you could turn around and look back at the area. from which you came. And this seems like maybe a good moment to stop. And we will pick up again next Thursday. I think we have 3 sessions left, right, or 4. Anyway, so anyone who is watching, hope you enjoyed, and you'll see more of our adventures later.